Welcome to the masking tutorial. In this video, we are going to go over how to blend multiple images together using the masking tool as well as a few other tools. So to begin, you will start with two images. You can see that I'm showing and hiding the top image by clicking next to the layer. And now if we click on the layer we want to create our mask in and click on the little dark circle in the white box, you can see that a white palette has shown up next to our image. That is our mask, and what it does is create another layer inside of the selected layer, which tells Photoshop which part of the image to show and hide. So if we use our brush, if it sees white, it will show the image, and if it sees black, it will hide the image. So if we paint black, you can see that that part of the image is hidden. And you may ask, why not just use the eraser tool? Because if we use the eraser tool, you can see it does the same thing. And that is because if you ever want the image to come back, right, if we just delete this part of the image, if we paint it white, you can see that we can make the image come back again. And that's good for non-destructive editing. Now, if you noticed, if you use the brush in its basic mode, it creates harsh lines in our image. And in order to make a smoother transition, we can change the hardness, the opacity, and the flow. And hardness is how sharp the images are on our brush tool. It creates what is called a feathering in our brush stroke. And it's kind of like a gradient from the center to the edge of the brush. Opacity is how see-through the paint is. And if you notice, if I hold the mouse button and paint over the same area, it doesn't change the effect. It only covers more space that I haven't painted. And that's different from flow, because flow is how quickly the paint comes out of the brush. And what that does is it allows you to paint multiple times over the same area, and that makes more of the image come through, up to the point where the whole image can come through. So using all these adjustments will give different effects. So it's very important to experiment with the different combinations. For now, let's use an opacity of 50 and a hardness of 1. To delete the mask, right-click on the mask, and there should be an option to delete it. And let's create a new one. And let's put the flow on even lower, actually. And now we can start selecting an area that we want the background to show up through the flower. So we could just kind of paint, anywhere on the mask. And so now that we did that, let's turn on the layer with the face. And let's say that we want to combine these two images. And we used the brush before, and we can do the same thing again to hide the left side of the face. We can just like paint over it and have a, and the more we paint it, the more we can make it dissolve. But we can do it another way by using the gradient tool. So if we draw a gradient line starting from the edge and go to, say, his eye, we can make a smooth, quick transition from the negative space to the face. And you can see it show up on the mask next to the image. And finally, another useful tool to experiment with is the blending modes in the Layers tab. And if we use this image here, you can see that there's many options. And darken, what darken does is it combines the image with the layers below, and it creates an image which only uses the darkest part of the image. So you could see here like where the flower petals are dark, and the chin on the person's face is darker than the mountains. Those come up over the mountains. And color burn, it looks at the colors and will try to darken the lower layers by increasing the contrast between the lower and selected layers. One quick way of going through the different blending modes is if you click on the Move tool and click the Shift and plus and minus keys on the keyboard. Doing that will let you go through all the different blending modes one by one really quickly which is the one that's under this drop-down menu over here. But yeah, try to experiment with all of them and seeing the varying effects that they can create. Finally, let's go to the menu again and click on adjustments and hue and saturation. And if we change the hue, let's try a different layer actually. Yeah, if we change the hue, you can see that we have different hues coming in from the layer. And same thing with the saturation. And same thing with the lightness as well. But these are all effects that you should be experimenting with. And this concludes the masking tutorial.